Hello and welcome to my tutorial. I will show you kind of how to do this. I did a little motion graphics here. Fireworks. So basically it's done in thinking particles as the name states, and I will show you how to make particles stick to a grid so that afterwards you can attach geometry like I did here, the cubes, and it looks like, well, yeah, a pixel or voxel grid. So what I won't show you is how to do the fireworks, because I set up pretty much, I used this scene that I did with the fireworks to drive then the animation for the cubes. But that is a little other step. It's not that complicated, the script actually. A little unorganized. But if you watch these tutorials like I did from Footprint Production, the Thinking Particles tutorial 1 and 2, he won't show you how to do the fireworks either, but if you watch it, you immediately will think of fireworks, and yeah, it's easy to do afterwards. So if you want to see how I did the fireworks, then just watch these tutorials and you're good to go. But what I will show you now is how to make the particles stick to a grid so that afterwards we can have this this animation with the fireworks and yeah, like the pixel. So let's get started. By the way, I just switched my Cinema 4D to English, so if I don't know right away what the name of a tool is, then yeah, forgive me. So we start out with a null object and name that TP. And if you watch those Footprint Productions, you see that I copied some of his habits. Those are quite good tutorials. And let's start with Expressor. Okay, so the basic problem that we have is, or not problem, but the idea is that we have two particle systems basically, because we have the driving particle system, which is, I always call the group traveling, and those particles, like I said, they drive the other particle system, and this needs to be independent of the other one, because then we can just switch the driver like I did I used the fireworks, or if you have a better idea, an explosion or whatever, like in the Lego movie they had this water simulation, which kind of reminded me of this. You can easily switch these, and yeah, you don't have to modify a lot. So particles are created along the way of these moving particles, and the other particles, new ones, stick to a grid. So let's just create this first particle system. Should be easy enough. Generator, we take a p-storm, put that in. Like I said, we do that, add it to a group, p group, particle birth. And so pin that over here and create a new group and name that traveling. All right, give it color green. Drag that in here, and just for like debugging reasons, let's make this 0, 0, 0, 0, put all that to 0, and go to rate, only 1. So 1 particle per second is emitted. I have to reset it. So yeah, now just 1 particle per second is emitted, and we can easily debug it afterwards. And if it's fixed, then we can set our main values, what we want here. Okay, so that's that for now. Now comes the hard part, that we want to create particles along the way. Okay, so let's make that a p group actually, an X group, which I recommend you to use. It's really a good habit to keep organized. Let's make that traveling are born. All right. Now we need the p-pass. Pull the traveling in here. So we want to get the data of these traveling particles. So specifically the position. So we need the helper get data of those particles and the position. All right. And at that position drives the creation of the other particles. So basically we want at the position output, to the position to create a new particle, but not at the specific the precise position of this these traveling particles, but we want to have these arranged at to a grid, a 3D grid. And so we need to round those values. The values here are like not random, but they're real numbers. And we want to round them to the next point on the grid. And what I used here, how to do that, is normal espresso, calculate, and the divide. Switch to attributes. And here we see we can, instead of real, we choose an integer here. And what that does is, like I said, normally you have real numbers with decimal points, and integer is the data type of the output, what lies here at the output. So he takes number 1 divided by number 2, or input 2, and that gives, I don't know, 1.234. And then he discards all the decimals, and just on the output there's then just the 1, the value 1. The problem is now that the position gives us a vector, and what he takes here is well, an integer now that we need here function divide. Yeah, and now he can't even take a vector. So first we need an adapter to split it up, reals to vector. Actually, sorry, the other way, vector to reals. And that gives us real numbers for x, y, z. We copy that 3 times. And now just connect those to x, y, and z values. Okay. Input 2 is by how much we want to, how big basically we want our grid to be. And afterwards, if for example now we want our grid to be like 2 units, we divide by 2. So if the initial value is 4.123, we divide by 2, so the output would be 2. So now we want to get back to the initial value, because it's just 4.1 something needs to be rounded to the next grid point, which would be 4 if we have the units by 2. So actually now we go back and put another math node here. Now with real, that doesn't matter here because we only get integers. We could also put integers here, but now we use multiply, and the output we also copy that 3 times. Connect those, and then we need another adapter and convert those 3 values to a vector again. All right. That doesn't work. Okay, input 2 is our grid. So right now, I don't know how fast they're traveling, but let's just try 20. here we use the same value, 20. So that, to explain again, now we have the same value like before, but rounded without decimals. And at that point, that rounded point to our next grid is, yeah, that's the point where we want to create a new particle. And at that point, we generator p storm, amateur position. Yes. Now it's important we use rate again. Like I said, this is the output. 100 particles per second are now emitted. And at the moment I'm going at 25 frames per second. So at every frame, 4 particles are emitted at that rate. It's important now to set this rate to the same, to your frame rate, because otherwise if you have it lower, then yeah, the tree here might tell this p-storm, okay, create a particle now, but p-storm might say, okay, no, I don't, the rate is too low. At this specific frame, I'm not creating a particle. So yeah, so at every frame, a new particle is created, or the potential to create a new particle is there. If it's too high, then there might be 2 particles at the same place, which we don't want. I don't care about life. And all of that we set again to 0 because we don't want to have also the speed. Speed is important because we don't want it to travel. It's just there, static at that specific at that position. And we put that into another group. Which we'll name static. Make it a red value. All right, shall we see what happens? There we go. I don't know why they're not red, which, oh, I forgot to assign it, yeah. Right, there we go. The problem now is, well, that actually works now, but yeah, there is a problem, which I will really quick and dirty simulate. Pass. Basically what I'm doing now is assigning geometry to those, because that way we can see it better. Where is it? There, P shape. Create object cube. That cube like 20, 20, 20 here, or at 19 so that we have a spacing between them. Put the cube on the shape, connect those two, bounding radius set to 10, and for the geometry to be seen we need the particle geometry. Exactly. So what I want to show you now is if we convert this to editable geometry with shortcut C. We can choose one and move it, but as you see, there are many cubes at the same spot, like a lot of them. And if we convert all that, undo all of that. Actually, we don't need the geometry, we can just delete it. The same here. If we watch the total particle count here, it goes way up. So by logical, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the static and 1 single traveling particle, so 5. But actually we have 21 particles. So yeah, the problem is that at every new frame, this tree is calculated, evaluated, and of course at every new frame, a new particle is then created and set to this position. Okay, so how do we cope with that? Actually, if you did what I did with the fireworks, it yeah, it might not matter that much. It always matters, but how do I, there, convetrix group. But if you attach like more geometry to it, like complexer one, not just a cube, or maybe a cube with a rounded edges, the scene gets really, really difficult to calculate and watch in your viewport. I already had difficulties with my scene, and I only had cubes put there. And also if you use transparent materials for the cubes, then you get another problem that if you have multiple objects at the same place, they're not as transparent as they should be, like as a single one. Yeah, so, okay, how do we deal with that? Well, the idea that I had was that a traveling particle needs to know where the last static particle was created, or where itself created the last static particle. So, to help us with that, we used channels, or I used channels. Channels are like user data that you can attach to particles. Every particle has the values of size, speed, position, and so forth. And if you want your own value to be attached to every particle, you can do that in the channels. So here we say last grid point, and we use that is a vector put to add. Okay, so what that gives us now, zoom back in here. At the get data port, we now also have a last grid point vector, which we can ask. The important thing is that it needs to be set up. So right now, the particles do have it, but, oh, I missed that. Now the particles have this vector, it's created, but it's set to null because it has no value, so it's not even 0, 0, 0, but it's actually null. So when they are born, the particles, we want to assign a value already to them so that it's not null. So at the birth, when it's born, we set data, pset data of the particles that are born, and we set the data of this last grid point. And here we use a constant, which is a vector, and it's 0, 0, 0, that's fine. So now every particle that is created has this last grid point value assigned 0, 0, 0. Okay. And now comes the fun part. The idea is that now, after when we calculate all this, this gives us a point at the grid. And now we compare this one to that one. And let's do that here quickly. Logic compare. Actually, not even compare, we need equal. So plug that in here. And its data type is vector. Okay. And that drives then the creation of the other particles at this p-storm now. So if this vector, this point on grid level, is different, which is not equal to the last, where the last particle was created, where the last static particle was created, then a new particle shall be created. But if they are equal, then at that grid point there was already a particle created, a static particle. So yeah, what we need is not equal. If they're not at the same position, then we want to create a particle at that position. And if they are not equal, then this output will be true. So here we drive this with on. By the way, if you press Control and double click, it will automatically set the size so that you can see everything. And afterwards, or at the same time, when a new particle is born at that position, we need to set this vector again to that position so that it's updated. And we do that with set data. Put it over here. And the particles are the, particles are the traveling. We also, on. At the same time, like when this is true, when this happens, a new particle created, this also is true, and the data is set. And this is set to the value of, this new grid position that we have. And that should pretty much do it. Let's see what happens. Okay. Yeah, 5 is good. We have now 1, 2, 3, 4 static particles and 1 traveling particles. So 5 in total, which is good. But now if I continue playing, we see a new problem. Another particle is created, and this particle has no clue that at those grid points, there already exist static particles. So now we have 1, 2 traveling particles, so that is good. But we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 static, but it's 9 because those 2 are now doubled. So at last, the last move now is to delete the double particles. At that point, I want to add that I did riddle this for about 2 or 3 weeks almost, how to do this. So I'm telling you now my way. I'm sure maybe there is a better way. Probably there is a better way and a more efficient way. I just didn't figure it out. And if any of you guys are watching this video and go like, oh my, it's so obvious, just do that, please tell me, because I want to learn, and maybe you're just so much smarter than me. But if you, please try it out first, because like I said, I tried this a lot and the obvious stuff didn't work. Another hint that that is important now is that thinking particles only allows 1 p-pass per branch. Like the whole tree can have multiple, plus one of these branches that is calculated must only have 1 p-pass node. If we did like what we could put another p-pass here, put that also to traveling, just to show you, and get the data of these particles. Last grid point, like if we did that, or if we did just that, should be the same, but it isn't. It will give an error. And it doesn't tell you, again, what error. Thinking particles never does, which I wish that they would change, but it just doesn't. And this is why I figured out that per branch is only allowed to have 1 p-pass. The only way you can have 2 groups is with the p-pass AB, which we are going to use now. So we are zoomed out too far. Let's create a new X group and rename that group doubles are deleted. So what we do is that still doubles are created, but immediately afterwards, if there are double particles at one point, they are deleted. And at the end, when you can render the frame, actually there are no double particles. So it also works with transparent materials and everything, because before the frame is like ready to render, the doubles are deleted. All right, here in the p-pass, in the p-pass AB, we put the same group, the static group, on A and group B. What the p-pass AB does, it takes the first particle of the first group and the first particle of the second group and compares them. and it already has a distance type. We say inside here and set the distance to 10. So what that does is it compares the particle from group A and group B, and if they are within, which is the inside, within the distance, the given distance, then it will at the output values here will be the particle from group A and the particle from group B. And the distance is pretty much random here because yeah, anything above 0 but smaller than the value of your grid size should be fine. But if it's bigger than the grid size, then two adjacent particles from this from different grid points are also compared, which are rendered out, which we don't want. So 1 is just fine. Okay, now the idea is that we compare those. Get data, to get data, those particles, and yeah, if we played, my idea was that I want to delete or want to kill the younger particles. So the older ones survive, the ones that were created earlier survive. The idea behind that is that at one point of my fireworks project, I had the idea of the particles with shrinking with age, and for that I needed the older ones to survive, because if they shrink, if they start to shrink smoothly, and then they're killed, and at the same point another new particle, which is a big particle, a cube is created, then you have these jumps, which yeah, I didn't want. And also each particle has its own index. So if you assign geometry to a specific particle, let's say every odd particle is a cube, every even particle is a cone, then that way the indexes are the same, because the way thinking particles, I think now, this is just what I figured out, handles indexes is if you have particle 1, 2, 3, and 1 is killed, then the particle 2 becomes the index 1, and the particle 3 becomes the index 2. So the next particle that is created gets the index 3. So there are never holes in the index. But that way, if you assign, like I said, odd and different shapes to odd and even, or every third particle or whatever, then you have also these jumps. So if you delete the younger ones, the one at the end of the chain, your front of the chain isn't affected. So we compare the age. Now we need a compare node. Okay, actually we need 2 compare nodes. Those are real numbers, yeah. And if A is smaller than B, then we want to kill A. We always want to kill the younger ones. So if A is smaller B, this one will output true. Now we need an age. Actually, sorry. No age. We need a P die. Okay, and we set here on. So if A, again, just for me because I'm slow, if A is smaller than B, this will output true. So if A is smaller than B, A must be killed. So A must be killed if A is smaller than B. And we do the same here, just the other way around. If bigger. If A is bigger than B, then B is younger and B must be destroyed. Come on. All right. And what I did now, just roll with it. Is I created a new group. Glory group win, which we will color yellow. And yeah, because the problem now is that the new ones delete the old ones and they're created again. So what I did here in order to protect them is new group. Where is it? Standard group. This, and we duplicate those. On. Okay, so if this is true, then the other one has 1, B has 1 and gets into group B. And here the same. Group A gets into group B, which now works. Now it will convert those to win, but now the win has again the same problem that we had before with the static, that now in the win group there are multiples. So what I did last, and the very last, you will soon there, is again the same. We need a p pass, and now we compare here the static to the win, and distance inside 1. We need a p die and constant true, which is boolean value true on. Okay, and now if those two like fight, the static ones and the win, a new particle here is created because there's no static particle at that point. So this particle would create a new particle static here. So then now at that point there's a win and there's a static particle. So now those two fight and the win always wins. Well, yeah. So if those two are within, particle A is killed. And you need to put this constant value on here, otherwise it's apparently by default it's 0. So what that gives us now is, if you look at that, we have 2 greens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reds, and 1, 2, 3, 4 yellows. So that is 11, should be 11 particles, and total we have 11 particles. 4 there, 5 there, and 2 traveling. So that's now pretty much it. Now you can assign geometry again. Actually, what I did was, oops. All right, and now we create a new particle group, geometry, and put those in there, which should still work now. Exactly. And now we can, like before, p-pass the whole geometry group to p-shape and have a cube. P-shape, we need to adjust the bounding radius, and we need the thingy particles, geometry. Oh yeah, let's make that 19, 19, 19. Hide that. Oops, hide that. And there we go. And if we convert this, now at every point, we only have one cube. So now you can go in and just go crazy with your initial particle, like rate 20 if you wish, and 360, 360, and yeah, let's leave that. And see what that does. Oh no. Let's do a new here. And yeah, there you go. What I did in my node tree here, like you can see here, it's basically the same. I only had like an interface here where I can now set the sizes of these cubes specifically, and the grid size will change equally. Like I had this set to 10 now, so the size drives then my divide and my multiply object, so that now I can like it's more comfortable that way to adjust the size. And I have separate cubes to each particle group, so I can, if I want to, I can set individual grid sizes. So yeah, that's that. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this tutorial was fun for you. It was my first tutorial, so yeah, please be gentle. And like I said, I figured this out by myself. I tried over 2 weeks. If you guys have a better solution on how to do that, please let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to learn from you. By the way, my name is Phantom. You can see my work at www.phantom.de for Germany, and my Vimeo channel is vimeo.com/phantom. Thanks, bye.